Hi everyone and welcome to the Stitch Sessions. Are you guys ready for the final installment in our Pillow Talk Crochet series of 2023? It's the first Wednesday of the month and it's December. So we're working on the final pillow project, and that is the candy stripe pillow. I wanted to keep this last pillow pretty simple and a special little nod to the holiday season. So I was inspired by candy canes. And so I thought by keeping it nice and simple with a simple double crochet stitch, this would be a perfect project for any skill level. So even if you're a beginner and all you know is the double crochet stitch, you should still be able to create this pillow. What you will hone your skill on is how to increase and how to decrease, because this pillow is worked from one corner to the other. So those of you that are a little bit more experienced, you can have some fun with this too by focusing on that skill. And if you're new here, welcome. I'm Karen and I love sharing my joy and love of crochet with you all. So come along for the ride. I look forward to taking you along on this week's tutorial. So let's get started. All right, so here are all the things we're going to gather to create our candy stripe pillow. So you can see I've already done one panel here, and I'm really happy with how that turned out. Okay, so I'm using 3 colors for my project. And so I've got the green, the red, and this sparkly kind of cream, almost off-white color. It's not really as creamy as it might come across. So this is the Loops and Threads yarn, in case you're wondering. And I think it's just called Soft and Shiny. And this particular color, in case you are curious to use the same one, is simply called Sparkling. And these come in skeins of 190 meters or 270 yards, and it's a weight of 119 grams. Now, you'll just need one of each of these skeins for our pillow size. Of course, if you want to make your pillow larger, you can. Just make sure that you are aware of the amount of yarn you're going to need. Now, these 2 colors, for some reason, came in a slightly larger skein. So these 2 skeins here are 170 grams, which give you 311 yards or 285 meters. So you definitely have a lot here. And both the green and the red came in this larger weight. I'm not sure why this one is lighter. Maybe it's a limited edition, but they're all loops and threads. And this color is called Simply Red. And this one is called Parsley. So there you go. So I like these. These are like the traditional Victorian type Christmas colors. I definitely will not go through this. I probably will get to the end of my cream because that's my main color, but I'm going to have quite a bit left over. So you really only need 1 skein of each. You will also need a pillow insert, of course. My pillow is a 12 by 12 inch square pillow, and you can get this really any craft store, Walmart, Amazon. I will leave a link for where I got mine in the description box down below. You also are going to need a zipper closure. Now, even though our pillow is only 12 inches square, I always like to get the zippers slightly larger just to have a little bit in case I need some extra give. So this is a 14-inch zipper. Yep, 14-inch or 35 centimeters. Again, you can get this at any fabric store, craft store, Walmart, Amazon, etc., etc. Make sure that you have thread and a thread needle. Remember, a thread needle is different than a yarn needle because the eye is a lot smaller. So you're going to need the thread and the thread needle to sew the zipper on to your pillow cover. And then, of course, you'll need a yarn needle to weave in your ends. There's going to be a lot of ends in this project, but I'm going to show you how you can kind of work them as you go. Make sure to have a pair of scissors, of course, and most importantly, you're going to need a crochet hook. So for this project, I am using a 6mm hook, which is also known as a J or a size 10, for those of you that go by that hook label. Hopefully you can see that there. Okay, and let me just double check here. So the yarn here calls for using a 5.5 millimeter hook, but you guys know me, I always kind of go up a hook size. More often than not, I'll go up a hook size. So that's why I'm using the 6 millimeter hook. So once you have all of these things gathered together, then we'll be ready to start stitching up our candy stripe pillow. Okay, I want to start off firstly by placing a screenshot up on the screen. And what I want you to do is I'll leave a timestamp for this screenshot as well. It's just so you can study how I did the order of the colors. Now you can just do your order any way you like, but this for me was very reminiscent of the candy cane color stripes. So a lot of times we think that it alternates green, white, red, green, white, red, green, white, red. But I actually noticed that on different types of candy canes, the color order is different. So I just want to show you here that I started in the corner. So the project is worked in the corner. We increase and expand until we get the height and the width that we want. And then we decrease to get to the other corner. So I started with the red. So I alternated, I did red, cream, red, cream. Then I brought in the green color. And then I went cream, red, cream, green. So you can see I did 2 repeats of red and cream, and then I brought in the green. Then I brought in the cream and the red and the cream, and then I brought the green back. I know, cream and green, not 2 great colors to be talking about each other. So sometimes you'll see a single red stripe, and then sometimes you see a double, right? But always the green is a single, if you noticed. So I have 2 reds, 1 red, 2 reds. But every single time there's only a single green. And the other thing that's in common is between all of the contrasting colors, the cream is always layering in between each of those contrast colors. So I have red, red, green, red, green, red, red, green. Again, if you find that confusing, just follow the screenshot. It's really straightforward. If you want to just do them completely alternating, keep it nice and even, you can totally do that as well. I just wanted to kind of explain my method because you might look at the screenshot and go, I don't get what this order is. It's not consistent. So I just wanted to quickly explain the idea behind the design and why it's done that way. And like I said before, I didn't want to overwhelm the thing with like holiday stripes. Sometimes I find it's just too much. So I wanted it to just have this kind of subtle nod to the traditional Christmas and then just have a neutral palette here. And again, there's a little bit of sparkle that runs through this yarn. Unfortunately, you can't see that on camera, but just brings up that nice little Christmassy vibe. Now let's begin talking about how we're going to construct our 2 panels, starting from the corner and working our way out. Okay, so I'm going to begin with the red color first to start working from the corner. And what we're going to do is we are going to place a slip knot on our hook. And we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now, if you're a very tight crocheter, you may need 4 chains or even 5. So I found that for me, 3 was plenty. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the very first chain and I'm just going to slip stitch to join this chain to make a circle. So I want it to be a nice tight little circle there. And this will represent the corner of our panel. So this is going to be the corner and we're going to work our way out as we expand and increase. Now what we want to do is we want to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. So this chain 3 will count as a double crochet stitch. Now we're going to work into the center of our little circle here. And I know it may be tricky to see, but if I were to put my hook right through there, that is actually the center of our circle. So what we're going to do is we are going to place 4 double crochets into the center of this ring here. So I'm going to yarn over and insert my hook. And then just pull up a loop and double crochet as usual. So I'm going to do that 3 more times. And here's my 4th double crochet. So including the chain 3, I now have 5 stitches inside that ring. Okay, so there's the chain 3, that's 1. And then there's the 4 double crochet stitches, so that's 5. And so you can see now how that ring is now going to start to become the corner of our square. So we've created what looks like a little shell or a fan. Okay, so this is row number 1, and row number 1 is complete. So what you're going to do, actually, before you snip your yarn, is I'm just going to pull that out. And when we do the last double crochet of the row, you're going to resolve it with your next color. So I'm going to insert and pull up a loop and pull through the first 2, but I'm not going to yarn over and pull through. I'm going to bring in my new color, which is going to be the cream color here. Okay, so I'm going to use that to pull through and resolve row number 1. Okay, and then a lot of times what I'll do is I'll throw that over, and then I will chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and that helps me begin the next row. Now what I will do is I will snip my yarn. It's just easier to snip your yarn between, I know those of you that like to carry your yarn, which I actually do. When we're changing colors this often on opposite sides, it just makes it a lot easier to snip your yarn. So I've left that tail there. And so we're going to go on to row number 2 with our new colors. So we've chained 3, we're going to turn our work. And so now we want our work to expand to start creating the 2 sides of the square. So a little funny method here. Anytime you do a chain 3, for the most part, we're just going to ignore it. It's just helping us gain some height. So what we're going to do is we're going to increase here into that first stitch right there. We're going to place 2 double crochet stitches. And what I'm going to do is I actually am going to bring these tails over, and I'm going to work over my tails as I go. This will save you weaving in all these tails at the end. Now, if it doesn't bother you and you prefer to weave in your tails at the end, then by all means go for it. But I like to work over mine as I go along. So I'm going to yarn over, and into that very first stitch, I am going to double crochet. Now this first couple of rows will be a little funky because we don't have enough fabric to grip onto, but you will be a-okay as you move along. Okay, so technically we have 3 stitches here. And I'm just ignoring that chain 3. So we've done an increase there with 2 double crochets. Now what I'm going to do, so remember we had 5 stitches in row number 1. So row number 2, we're now going to move across, and into each stitch, we're going to place 1 double crochet stitch until you have 1 stitch left at the end of your row. Okay, so it looks like I actually only have 1 stitch, but I have 2 stitches left. So remember that chain 3 there. So I'm going to place 1 double crochet into the next stitch. And then I'll have 1 stitch left, which is the top of that chain 3. And so at the end and beginning of every row, we're going to place an increased stitch. So we're going to find the top of that chain 3. It might be a little tricky there. We're going to insert our hook. And we're going to place 2 double crochet stitches. So there's 1. And then I'm going to yarn over, going back into that same stitch. And there is 2. Okay. So row number 2 is complete. So I had 5 stitches in the beginning in row 1. Hopefully so you can see already that it's starting to take on this. It looks like a triangle because we're working 2 sides at one time here. So row 1 had 5 stitches. Row number 2 is going to have 8 stitches. So even though I said we're ignoring this chain 3, it will count in your full stitch count at the end. So it seems like we're increasing 3 stitches on one end and 2 stitches on the other. And don't ask me why it works, but it actually works out perfectly. I tried just doing 2 and 2 like you normally would do, but for whatever reason, I'm not sure if it's the yarn weight, but it was becoming uneven. So this is this is the technique I'm using, which is the chain 3 and 2 double crochets at the beginning. And in the last stitch, I always place 2 double crochets. So we're going to go into round number 3, and you're going to see how I'm going to repeat that same method again. Now you can see that the tail ended up going all the way to the end. And at the very end, I'll just weave it in a little bit and then I'll snip it off. So as usual, what I should do before I finish that last one is I should resolve it with the next color. Now in this case, I'm going to bring the red color back. So I'm going to bring it here, place it on my hook, and pull through. Okay, now I know some of you will put a slip knot on your hook first. Because I'm snipping my yarn quite often, I am avoiding doing that because I want not to create too much bulk in the sides here. So I'm just pulling it through, and then I throw those over so that I trap them in there. And then I chain 3. So I always begin with a chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And then I can snip my yarn. And then I'll turn my work, just like this. Okay, and again, I'm gonna work over these tails, so I just push these over to the side here. And whenever I begin a row, I always place 2 double crochets right into that same stitch where I chained 3. So I'm gonna yarn over and double crochet. So in terms of stitches, this project is very easy. It's using the double crochet, which is very basic crochet stitch. Okay, so technically I have 3 stitches there. And now I'm going to continue across the way and simply place 1 single crochet into each stitch across until I have 1 stitch left. Okay, so I'm working into the top of that chain 3. So this is my second last stitch. And then I'm going to place 1 more stitch in that same spot for my second increase here. And then remember that when you're doing that very last stitch, you're going to bring in your new color, which again, I'm going to bring back the cream because remember that's the anchor color. So in between, anytime I use red and or green, I always bring back the cream color here. So I'm just going to bring back that in. Okay, and then I'm going to chain 3 as usual. So we have 1, 2, and 3, and then I'm going to snip off my red yarn to get it out of the way here. Okay, so let me just pull that out for a second. So row number 3 now has 11 stitches. Okay, so we had 3 at the beginning, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then we have 2 at the end, 10, 11. So we started with 5, we went to 8, and then we went to 11. So I think you can see where we're going with this. So you're always increasing by 3 stitches, which I know sounds funny. But just keep stretching your work and putting it down at the end of every row, and just make sure that you're just getting this nice right angle here. And it worked out perfectly here, so the method works. So I'm going to take you through just a couple more rows. The method is the same, but I just want to show you how the colors change. So I'm just finishing up this row here, which is row number 4. I'll turn my work, and as usual, whoops, I'm going to flip my tails over there. As usual, we're going to start off by placing 2 double crochets into the base of that very first stitch. So you see, it's nothing too crazy, like it's pretty straightforward. It just feels a little funky to work from corners, but it's a really great, cool technique to learn, and hopefully it'll give you some creative inspiration on other projects you can create using this method here. So now I'm just going to place, so I did my increase, and now I'm just going to place 1 stitch into each stitch all the way across until I have one stitch left. And then I'm going to place my increase in the last stitch. So same thing we've been doing before. The only thing that's different is that the number of stitches is going to increase with every row. Okay, so I've come up to the end here, and now it's time to introduce our green color. So you see I've done red, cream, and now we're gonna do the green. So I'm just at the tail end of my last stitch there. I'm gonna pull that green through, and then I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to turn my work, and I always like to snip my yarn right away so that it doesn't confuse anything. And then we're going to do our same method. So I'm sure you get the gist by now. So we go back into that same stitch. And we place 2 double crochet stitches. Okay. And by the way, in row number 4, we ended up with 14 stitches. Okay, so we had 11 in the previous, plus an additional 3 will give us 14. And then as usual, I'm going to place 1 double crochet into each stitch across till I have 1 stitch left. You guys have heard me say this already for the other 3 rows, or the other 4 rows, I should say. So I think you know what to do. So we're just going to keep working our way across, and be careful that you don't start loosening up too much or tightening up too much. You want your work to stay nice and even, and you want to create that nice right angle. So if you start loosening up too much or getting too relaxed, that is going to affect the outcome here. So I'm just speeding up a little bit just so you guys get the basic gist here. All double crochets, nice and easy. Okay, so I'm coming up to my chain 3. Now, just be careful. See, to the naked eye, it looks like I'm done my row, right? Because that's the last stitch. But remember, there's always a chain 3 right here, so you don't want to miss that. I mean, you'll quickly figure it out after a couple of rows when your work starts kind of bunching in. So you want to make sure that you get that last chain 3. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is the end of row number 5. So now you can really see how we started from that little chain ring, and now we are getting this little triangular shape here. Okay, then I just like to put it down a little bit. Sometimes I hand block it just to give it a little bit of heat. Okay, so this is the beginning of what will become this. So see how there's red, cream, green, always divided by the cream. And again, make sure to refer back to that screenshot. So I did a total of 15 rows increasing, and that's why I've got these little safety pins here, just so I remember where I ended off. So my last row is going to be a cream colored row, and then I'm going to finish the rest of the panel in the cream color. So once you get to row number 15, just double check, because sometimes, again, you can start getting looser, you can start getting tighter. Just double check that it fits nicely over the pillow insert, and you want it to actually be slightly smaller than the pillow insert so that it stretches nicely over it. So just make sure that it looks like it's going to sit nicely. Once you're finished your 15th row, we're then going to begin decreasing to create the other corner on that side. But I'll meet up with you then. I'm going to finish my 15 rows, and I'll meet up with you when we're ready to start doing some decreases. Okay, so I have completed the first half of my panel, and I'm sorry, I had said 15 rows was where you were going to end. It's actually 16. The 15th row is on the green. and this is the 16th row. So this will be the last row of increases. And if I bring back the first panel I did, you can see that it fits just perfectly. So I'm staying pretty in line with the gauge that I started with. So I'm very happy with that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start to decrease. So we're going to follow the same method as we did with the increases. So when we increased, we always, well, we chained 3, we turned our work, and the first stitch always got 3 stitches, and the very last stitch always got 2 stitches. Now remember, I know at the beginning I said the chain 3 doesn't really count as anything, but technically the stitch count, it does count. I just meant that we're going to ignore it while we place an increase in there. So now for our decreases, what we're going to do is at the beginning, we're going to decrease these 3 stitches together. And then at the end, we're going to decrease the last 2 stitches together. Now, in order to do the decrease here, what I'm going to do is instead of chaining 3, I'm just going to chain 1. I'm going to turn my work, and I'm going to skip the first stitch this time. And then I'm going to go into the second stitch here. I'm going to begin a double crochet, but I'm not going to resolve it. And then I'm going to go into the next stitch and begin another double crochet. Whoops, I don't think I yarned over. That's right. So I got to yarn over, insert my hook into the next one, start another double crochet and not resolve it. So I've got 3 loops on my hook. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull through all 3 of those loops. So those 3 stitches now have become 1. Now, if it does get tricky for you to see, what I would recommend is you placing a little stitch marker in there. And actually, I'm going to steal these from here since I'm finished this panel. It's also a nice help to show you where you initially started to decrease here. Okay, so just so that I remember that that actually is the only stitch there at the beginning, right there. And the rest of the row is the same. You just continue placing 1 double crochet into each stitch. And I forgot to make a mention that we're no longer changing colors, right? So we've done the color change just for the half, and for the next half, we're going to keep it nice and solid. So I'm just going to keep going 1 stitch into each all the way to the end of this row, which is row 17. Okay, I'm coming up to the end here. And now I have 2 stitches left. So I know it looks like it's only 1, but remember that's the chain 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to decrease these 2 together. So we begin a double crochet, but we don't finish it. Then we start another one into that chain 3. And we don't finish that one. And now we have 3 loops on the hook. We yarn over and we pull through all 3. So we've now decreased these 2 stitches down to 1. And by the way, I forgot to mention that at row 16, I have a total of 49 stitches. So we went from 5 all the way up to 49. Now we're going to begin decreasing back down 3 stitches with every row. So remember, we decrease 3 at the beginning and we decrease 2 at the end. So in total, so if I had 16 rows halfway through, so in total you should have 32 rows by the time you get up to that last corner there. So I'm going to take you now to a row number 18, just to kind of show you how to turn it around again. So I'll only chain 1. I'm going to turn my work. And remember that we are skipping this first one. So that's part of the decrease there. So we're skipping this first stitch right here. And we're going to decrease the next 2 stitches together. So we insert, we begin a double crochet, but we don't resolve it. And then we go into the next one and we begin a double crochet and don't resolve it. Again, you have 3 loops on your hook. yarn over, pull through all three, and that decreases. See, now you can see that there is a corner being formed there. So there we go, see that? So there is a bottom corner up, and now eventually this is gonna come across this way. So it's pretty straightforward and nice and easy. So you, like you've been doing, just one double crochet into each stitch all the way to the end. So every time you get 2 stitches left, so I see how I put that marker there, because it can be a little confusing in the beginning when we start to decrease. So basically you're going to do 1 double crochet into each stitch. When you have this stitch and this stitch left, you're going to decrease these 2 together, okay? A reminder, we decrease 3 at the beginning and we decrease 2 at the end. And you're going to keep going until you reach row number 32. And actually, I'm probably going to meet you around row 30 just to take you through kind of the last leg of the final point. And then we're going to be ready to create a little border around our panel. So nice and easy. We're almost there. So I will meet up with you in a little bit. Okay, so I'm almost finished here, and I just wanted to show you what happens at the very end. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches left. So I'm going to chain 1. Remember that I'm always going to skip over this stitch and decrease the next 2 stitches together. So we have 1, and we have 2, and then you're going to go into the very last stitch here. And you're going to double crochet as usual. So normally we would have done a decrease there, but we are just going to double crochet as usual, and that ends off your point basically. So if I put my work down here, there we go. Our panel is complete. Okay, so now before we snip off our yarn, we are now going to create a nice simple border around the edge, and this is going to help us put our 2 panels together. So this is what we're going to do. Once you come up to the end here, you're then going to chain 1. So this is technically the end of the row here, and now we're actually going to work down the side of each side. So now we're going to work down the side of each of the 4 sides of our panel. So I've chained 1, and now I'm just going to use a simple single crochet stitch all the way around to create a nice easy border. So right here into that stitch, I'm just going to take advantage of that and place 1 single crochet there. And then I'm going to go down the way here, and this is into a double crochet. So this is going to be a little funny because you're working into the sides of rows a lot of the time. So you just want to gauge how it looks. You don't want it to bunch up. You want it to keep it nice and even. So I'm going to now go in there and just always take a look at it. If it starts to bunch, that means you've gone too far away from your previous stitch. And if it's starting to buckle, that means you're putting too many stitches close together. Okay, so I've got a single crochet there, and now let's see if I can go here, and then I'll do the next one here. And I always try and nestle it in between a couple of loops. So I'll do a couple of stitches and then make sure that it's sitting okay. Whoops. And that's basically it. So this is the final round to complete your panel here. So I'm going to continue on, and then I'll meet you just at this corner here just to talk you through going around the bend there for those of you that are a little bit newer. If you are more experienced and you know what to do in that corner, then you go ahead and finish your whole panel, and then you'll be ready to do your second one. Okay, so I've come up to the corner here, and I have 33 stitches. And so if you end up having anywhere between 32 to 33 stitches, you're going to be a-okay, because remember that we had 16 rows So remember, in total, we're going to have about 34 rows. If you end up having 33 rows, it's not the end of the world. So if you have 32 or 33 rows, you generally want to try and have 32 or 33 stitches along each side, okay? And then when you create your second panel, you want to have approximately the same number of stitches as well, so that when you sew your panels together, it does make sense. Now, in the corners here, so I just did my 33rd stitch, you want to place 3 double crochets in here. So the next I said double crochet, I meant single crochet. So the next single crochet is going to act as our point to our square. And then the next one that we go back in again and do, that begins, that's the first single crochet down the next side. So technically in total, I now have 34 stitches here. And if I have another corner here, it's going to be 35 stitches. So again, the exact number isn't too crazy critical. You just want to make sure that they are even for both panels. And as long as your work doesn't bunch or ripple, you're okay. Remember, this is going over a stuffed item, right? So if it's snug, that actually works to our benefit because it'll stretch nicely over that pillow. Okay, so once you have crocheted around that corner, you're going to follow the same thing you did previously with this side, and you're going to just crochet a single crochet all the way around. And you just want to be careful because now it's changing colors, right? So you really want to make sure that you don't leave any gaps. So I strongly recommend that you don't single crochet into that space there. See, that's the chain 3. Try your best. I mean, you can't always do it, but I always try to at least go into one of these chains here just to make this nice and even, okay? And then, of course, every time you get to a corner, 3 single crochets in the corner, and then you continue until your whole border is complete. Once you're done that, you're going to snip your yarn and fasten off, and then your panel is done. So what you want to do then is create your second panel, and you can see here that this panel has a border on it already, and it's very subtle, just 1 single crochet row. And you can see it just kind of solidifies our design here, yeah? So you're going to create 2 of these panels, and then you're going to meet me back here, and then we're going to seam up 3 of our sides, and then we'll be ready to insert our zipper, and our candy stripe pillow is just about done. Okay, so I have completed 2 panels. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to place them wrong sides together. You'll actually notice that I did not snip my yarn off of my second one. I'm actually just going to continue and use this yarn to sew the 2 panels together. And actually, I'm super excited because I've got this much yarn left, and I think I'm definitely going to have enough to finish the project, and I might even have it a little bit left over, but if I were to use it all, I'd be very, very happy. So this is the wrong side, and then this is the wrong side of this panel, and I'm putting them together. Now, I am going to put it so that these candy stripes are actually touching each other. I just decided this time around I was just going to kind of keep them nicely together. And the cool thing is if you're looking at the pillow this way, your candy stripes on the left, and if you turn it over, the candy stripes on the right. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, you could turn the pillow upside down this way, but for this design, I just thought it would look really cute if the candy stripes were together. So that's how I'm going to place my panels. And now I'm going to find where I had my yarn here from my second panel. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to leave this side as the opening for my zipper. So I'm going to begin here, and we're going to single crochet these 2 panels together, starting on this side, coming down along the bottom and up the side here. I'm also going to be using the same technique of crocheting around the opening so that my zipper gets hidden in there. And for the last several pillow projects, I've used that technique. So I'm not going to take you through the full thing here, but you can watch actually, even if you just watch the last pillow, which was the Wonderland pillow, how I single crocheted around the opening, it's the exact same thing. So what I am going to do is I'm going to take you through how we're going to sew these two panels together. So like I said, I didn't snip off the yarn because it just made sense to keep going since we're going to use the single crochet method. Now, if you decided you wanted to whip stitch this together, you absolutely can. I just like the look of the single crocheted seam, and you can always add to it and embellish it if you feel like it needs a little something more. So I've got the loop of this panel here, and actually I'm going to chain one, and then I'm going to insert my hook into that very first stitch right there. And then I'm going to find the very first stitch of the corresponding panel. So remember, we did 3 single crochets in the corner here, and I'm going to go right into that very middle stitch. Whoops, right there. Okay, so I've got the 2 panels, and then I'll just bring up that loop and single crochet. And that's as easy as it is. So we're going to go into the next stitch here. And then I go into the next one in the corresponding stitch in the panel in the back, and I single crochet. And this is why it was pretty important to stay pretty even and equal in the number of stitches that you have. Now, sometimes we have one odd stitch here and there. You can just do a little decrease if that happens. Like, for example, you could just go here, pick up a loop, and then go in to the next one and single crochet. And that will still solve the problem. So just in case you get to the end and you go, uh-oh, I have one extra stitch on the other side than I do on this side, that's a quick and easy fix. But other than that, again, keeping things nice and simple, I'm going to go into the next stitch and then find the next unworked stitch and single crochet. Super, super easy. And once you get to the corners, you're still going to do that same thing that we did previously when we were doing the individual panels, and that is you're going to place 3 single crochets into that corner stitch. I'm just doing a few here so that you can see. Okay, there we go. It's nice and seamless, and on the back, beautiful. Look at that. Love it. Okay, so you know what to do. Single crochet all the way around. Remember, it's only 3 sides. Don't sew up the 4th side. We got to have it open to insert our pillow. All right, so go ahead and do that. Then you'll snip off and sew in your zipper. Now, I have done a separate tutorial on how to sew your zipper onto your pillow, and I'll leave a link for that in the description box down below, as well as right up here in the cards there. And then you can have quick access to it. Sew in your zipper. And then we just have to insert our pillow, and our candy stripe pillow will be finished. And here it is, the candy stripe pillow. You can see it's definitely a lot smaller than the larger one here. But I like having different size pillows. I think it gives your seating area some nice dimension. And I love how the candy stripe turned out, most especially because when you turn it this way, you can see where the 2 panels meet, and the colors just meet up beautifully. So I think that's always a fun little detail. It just shows how intentional you were with the design. So that is it, the candy stripe pillow. And I like how it's just subtle. It's more just on the corner there. It's not the whole thing. And it adds a little pop of something without being overwhelming. So what do you guys think? Double crochet stitches, that's all we used. Pretty easy, right? So also, I love using this zipper closure here. So just adding that extra row so you can hide the zipper in there. And there it is there. So I hope you found this pretty easy, pretty fun. I know it's probably not as exciting as the Wonderland pillow was. And I have to admit, when we do our year in review, I'm pretty sure you guys are gonna know which one is my favorite pillow of all the pillow projects. But I still think this is a sweet add-on to any holiday decor. And I wanted to keep it fairly simple so that those of you that are a little newer to crochet, still feel like you can get creative with simple stitches. And this is a great example of how to do that. And also learning how to work with increased stitches and decreased stitches. So this was, I think, a perfect project for getting comfortable doing that. So if you guys have any detailed questions, please feel free to pop them for me in the comment box down below. And as always, you're more than welcome to email me directly at info@crochetcrafty.com. And remember, come and visit me at crochetcrafty.com and check out all the free goodies I have there waiting for you, as well as make sure you sign up for my newsletter where I gift you a free written pattern with every issue. Now, if you're new here and you enjoyed today's tutorial, I invite you to press that subscribe button. Come hang out with me every Wednesday morning when I upload a brand new tutorial, or sometimes I even have bonus videos and crochet conversations or crochet quick chats. And by the way, now that we've come to the end of our series, I know that people already start to speculate what next year's series is going to be, or what the theme is going to be. And of course, there's always a sneak peek video at the end of the year, which is actually only a few weeks away. But I invite you to leave a comment for me down below. Let me know what you think next year's theme is going to be. And then when we do the sneak peek, we'll find out to see if you were right or not. All right, guys, that is it for me today and the candy stripe pillow. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Happy crocheting as always. And you know what I tell you, always remember to take good care of yourself. And I will see you all in next week's session. Bye-bye.